Hello and welcome to the Baklava broadcast. It's a Saturday night, and we're in the spot. Don't believe me? Just watch. How's it going, fellas? What's up, Rahul?
It's 4:30 for you. It's Saturday night already. You're getting old, man.
I know. It's sun's about to go down, so I'm just cuddling up and watching some Netflix for
Oh, that's
bedtime.
cute.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
And
That's
what
awesome.
about you, Johnny? How's it going?
Pretty well. Yeah, just living the dream, watching the playoffs.
All right, good deal. Well, yeah, as usual, I guess not me recently usual, but it's joined by Johnny and Rahul. I'm just gonna start off with a pretty quick joke, just to try to loosen things up a little, since a lot of pressure on us to perform.
We're
Well,
a pretty tight group. That's true.
I just watched a pirated movie, and I give it a 3.14 out of 10.
Sick. Sick. Wow. Well done. A pie rated. I got you. Wow. I was waiting for something about R.
No, dude, that's like a third grade joke. This is like a 10th grade joke when people know what pie is. So
I got a pirate joke for you. What's the pirate's favorite letter?
R.
Actually, his true love be the C.
Oh my
Oh,
Oh man.
You just made me think of the Steve the Pirate from Dodgeball. I don't know why,
Oh,
but
oh,
the
nice.
ultimate pirate.
that's a great movie.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so
yeah.
oh, you got something?
No, I was gonna say this is why we broadcast about basketball because we struggle with everything else.
If one person laughs that listens to this, it's all worth it, right?
That's a win.
That's true. Hopefully, there's people that listen to this. We'll see. We'll see. I think we're in the millions right now. Is that right?
Yeah, we're almost at. Well, we've had about what 20 videos.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're at around 225 million, I think.
Okay.
So
It's getting there.
That's like one Justin Bieber video. It's pretty
yeah,
good.
I know. Well, it's hard to compete with that guy though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
There are too many teenage girls out there.
Well, we got J-Rod, and
Well,
he's
anyway.
yeah.
That's true. What if if our background for this video is just a picture of Johnny just sitting there smiling. Maybe get some bench reps in there.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
a little treadmill running with the shirt off.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there. I see.
Yeah. Well, we'll discuss that at our next
So-
board meeting. But what,
Yeah.
what do we got basketball-wise today?
I figured, since pretty much all that's going on right now is, about half the teams are playing, half the teams are at home, and soon to be a lot more at home. It looks like based on how most of the series are unfolding. I figured first we can just dive right into the Cavs series against the Celtics. We're up 3-0 right now, looking pretty good. We'll start off with Rahul. Do you want to just give us some thoughts on the series so far? Maybe
Yeah.
recap a couple games. Anything sticking out to you that looks for the Cavs in the future?
Well, we're like you said, we're up 3-0, and all of them have been good wins, but not like great wins. We haven't really dominated any of the games. I think that's more on Boston playing pretty well and pretty energetically, and for them, the way I look at it is it's kind of like an audition for like the future seasons when they have cap room for free agents or are able to make a trade because they have a lot of young assets. Um, a lot of players are actually going to want to come to Boston after seeing kind of this fight they put up against Cleveland. So even though they're down 3-0, I would say it's going all right for Boston so far. Um, Most encouraging thing for the Cavs, I'd say, is Kevin Love's last game was really good. I think he had like 23 points, 10 boards, or something like that. So that was nice to see. But I think the Cavs have another level or two that they need to get to if they really want to make some noise. So that was my take from the series so far. J-Rod, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree, Rahul, that with this series, the Cavs don't necessarily really need to be at their best to win this series, and even sweep for that matter. There are definitely some concerns with the defense they've been playing, especially in like transition defense, and they've had some slow starts, especially in Game 1 and Game 2, where Boston started out pretty fast and got up on us, but then LeBron in the fourth quarter, especially in Game 3, very like he's able to prove himself and kind of turn that switch on and off when he needs to. There is also a lot of isolation ball. It still seems in the fourth quarter, so it just seems that the Cavs are still stuck in that regular season kind of mode, and they really haven't switched on to playoff mode yet. But it's still good to see that we're up 3-0, and Tristan Thompson has just continued to play very well. He just kills it on the offensive glass. And yeah, like you said, a great game from Kevin Love. That was good to see in Game 3. He was able to knock down 6 3-pointers. So overall, it's been good for the Cavs that they're up 3-0, but I think like you said, there's a whole nother level to be achieved, especially with the possibility of facing Chicago, who looks pretty good right now. So, Kurt, do you have anything to add to the Cavs-Celtics series of what you've seen so far?
Yeah, you guys have made some great points so far. I think the most important thing that I've seen is it just seems like Kevin Love is more engaged, I guess. There were times where he seemed, in the regular season, I guess, that he seemed like he wasn't terribly interested in being there, kind of aloof. But you could tell just in the playoff games that he was like, he's all in. He's actually like trying on defense when the game's close and it's getting to be crunch time. He's getting excited when he makes big plays, and I don't know, it's just good to see. I feel like maybe he's actually buying in now that the goal was to win a championship by bringing him in, and maybe he's like beginning to realize like how important he is, even if maybe stat-wise he isn't putting up the numbers that he's accustomed to, and he's still putting up. I don't remember. It's like something like 17 and 9, which if you're most players, you'd be like pretty ecstatic with those numbers. But it's a little different than 25 and 12 or whatever he had in Minnesota. But he's like, I don't know. He's just such an offensive weapon, and it's just become clear that Kyrie can take over a game too. So when you have Kyrie, LeBron, and then if you have Kevin, hitting threes or even just down low in the post, he's getting some post touches. It's just pretty hard to stop between those three guys. Like if at least one of them has it going, or even especially two, there's just really not a whole lot that the defense can do about that. And I love the lineup with those three, J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson. Like Johnny said, Tristan Thompson's just been playing out of his mind. He's had some really big offensive rebounds at the end of games too that we kind of let them sneak back in, and it's pretty much over, but not necessarily. And we have a bad possession at the end. He's gotten just a couple of offensive rebounds at the end to kind of seal the deal by draining clock. So yeah, things look good. It's hard for the team, I guess, to play super hard when they just know, like, flat out that they're just much better than Boston is. So that it's, at least we're grinding out the wins, because it is hard to play your very best when you just know that at the end of the day, like on paper and on the court, you're just far superior to the opponent. So
Yeah. If you look at Boston's team, they got some good players, like some good young players, with like Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder's kind of made a name for himself through the series.
Hmm.
Um,
hmm
like that's going to be a real good free agent destination, and like that's why like the talk of Kevin Love going to Boston isn't like quite as silly as it seemed at one point. You know?
yeah.
Yeah, and they have so many draft picks that they're able to even like move guys and make moves in the draft or trade for some veteran presence that they would need to. So yeah, Boston's future looks pretty good, I think.
Yeah. If I were them, I would try to unload the. I hate to say it, but the two Ohio State guys with some of their draft picks and see what they can get out of that. 'Cause I feel like I've just seen too much Solinger and Turner in this series. That's what I would think if I was a Boston fan. But
Ellie's looking a little large,
yeah,
but I know he's had some problems and hasn't been able to play much, but just looks like to me like he's gonna be like the next big baby Davis.
Yeah,
yeah.
I could see that.
He's just a big, wide dude.
Well, he could go like two ways now. Like he could get on that Kevin Love diet and trend that way, or he could, yeah, go to the big baby route. So, best of luck, Jared.
Yeah, I think there's a clear choice that he should be picking, but when I see Big Baby play, sometimes I wonder why he's in the league still. But
Yeah.
well, I guess keeping on the East trend, there's a game that just ended with Atlanta and Brooklyn, which is now 2-1, with Atlanta holding court at home, winning their 2 games, and then Brooklyn beating them today. So that's interesting. I guess a lot of people probably didn't give the Nets much of a chance to win a game even. So, Johnny, have you watched any of the series? Is it something that you're interested in? Some
No.
people will probably be turned off by watching Brooklyn play, which is understandable.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that series?
A few things. I mean, I haven't watched it too closely. It's not a particularly intriguing series out of the eight playoff matchups, I would say. But yeah, I wrote about this matchup in the playoff preview a little bit, and I think I might have said like Hawks in 5. But yeah, Brooklyn is definitely making this interesting. The Atlanta hasn't been very impressive in these games at all. Corver has obviously been really good, and they really rely on that balanced scoring philosophy and approach. But I mean, Brooklyn steals this game today, and now it's 2-1. So I think Brooklyn has a chance here to maybe push Atlanta maybe to 6 games maybe, or maybe 7. I don't know. We'll see what the next game brings about, but it just seems that the 1 seed in the East, Atlanta, I think Chicago poses a bigger threat for the Cavs in our second round than seeing Atlanta in the conference finals as it is now. And just to take a look at Brooklyn, I mean, I think just Darren Williams and himself, and just a few years ago making like the comparison between him and CP3 and who was better, and like now it's just so clear cut that CP3 is so much better than Williams, and that was kind of epitomized by the shot that he had to, I think, maybe tie it or win it in game 2, and it was just a great look, and he missed it. So it's 1 for 7 with 2 points in game 2. So
Nice.
I mean, despite Darren Williams like being really shitty, like Brooke Lopez, he's come along this last month or so this season. He's really progressed, and then players like Bogdanovic and like Thad Young, like those guys are kind of stepping up a little too, which is kind of surprising to see. So yeah, it'll be interesting, I guess, to see what happens in Game 4 if Brooklyn is competitive or if the Hawks come out with a sense of urgency. So I guess that's something to look forward to in this series. And maybe Brooklyn can wear down the Hawks a little for us to just come in there and just destroy them in the conference finals. So, um, yeah, that's all I have from the Hawks and Nets series so far. Rahul, what do you got?
Yeah, similar to what you said, and I was going to talk about Brooke Lopez. In this series, 18.5 points per game, 10.5 rebounds per game, and a block and a half. So I think, their one advantage that I can really see against the Hawks is like that kind of like big down low big man. Like Horford is really good, don't get me wrong, but he's not that typical like post presence. Um, so if I was Brooklyn, I would just keep feeding Brook Lopez because God knows he's probably gonna get hurt in a few days anyways. So you might as well feed him while you can. Um, but yeah, I mean, Darren Williams not as good as he used to be. Joe Johnson, he is what he is. But at the end of the day, they're still pretty solid NBA players, and even guys like you said, Bogdanovich and Jared Jack is like a huge part of their team now too.
Yeah.
Like he plays at the end of games for them, so it's all these kind of secondary guys stepping up too. And I guess no, everybody's kind of counted them out already. So what do they have to lose at this point? So I think this could be like a sneakily good series. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Kurt.
Yeah, it's. I haven't tuned in too much except for to the game today. Quite frankly, I don't know. I didn't expect Brooklyn to really pose much of a threat. But one thing they have shown is that they can actually play reasonably solid defense. And their two losses, they lost by 7 and by 5 in Atlanta. So it's certainly no blowouts or anything like that, which is interesting. But just looking at the box score from today, and if I told you that Darren Williams was 1 for 8 with 3 points, Brook Lopez was 7 for 18, and Joe Johnson was 5 for 17. When you just look at that, you wonder how could they possibly have won this game? And not only that, but they won by 8. It's because their defense. They held the Hawks to 35.6% shooting and 6 for 30 from 3, which is 20%. So that's just like pretty much the ugliest win I could think of. But across the board, like rebounds, assists, steals, turnovers, everything is pretty much exactly the same, except for the Nets managed to shoot a smoldering hot 38.6%, which is why they won. But I mean, the good thing for the Nets is that their defense is there, which the Hawks seem like they're very tough to defend because of Johnny said, with their balance scoring. So if the defense is there, all it takes is a couple games of the Hawks to just go ice cold like this one, or a couple games where maybe Joe Johnson or, well, probably not Darren Williams anymore, one of those guys just goes off, and I mean they could push it to 7 if they can keep the defense like this. So it's very interesting. I don't really think of Brooklyn as a team that's able to defend very well, but good for them for battling and getting a win and maybe actually having a chance. So
I think this is the best chance we have for a 1 seed versus an 8 seed upset in a very, very long time. So.
What about the Pellies?
Oh, let's not. Oh man, I watched that whole game, game 3. But we'll talk about that later, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our next series. Chicago-Milwaukee. So right now Chicago is up 3-0 on Milwaukee. So, Jira, do you want to start us off on this series?
Yeah, it's actually been a pretty competitive series so far, despite what the Bulls being up 3-0 and everything. And this series, I think, has all been about Derrick Rose and the return that he has made, and what he has done in the playoffs so far has been great. Last game in Game 3, he played actually 48 minutes, went into overtime, and he just looks like his former self almost back in his almost 2011 MVP form, it seems. He's just really attacking the basket, being aggressive, not really showing any weakness in his knee or anything, and he's the key to the Bulls' success so far. And Jimmy Butler has actually been a pretty good complement to him as well. And yeah, I mean, not too much else in this series. You've seen some flashes of greatness in Milwaukee from both the Greek Freak and Chris Middleton. Last game, Chris Middleton, they were down, and I think he scored like 10 points in the last like minute and a half to get them to overtime. So that's another team, like we said with Boston, that I think has a pretty good future as well.
Yeah.
Despite trading away Brandon Knight, which I didn't really understand, in favor of Michael Carter Williams, who can't shoot to save his life. But that has still worked out, and I think Jason Kidd deserves a lot of credit for what he's done this year. But it just seems that Chicago is really hitting their form, and there'll be obviously a dangerous matchup for the Cavs. What seems that they'll finish out the Bucks in this next game for the sweep. So, to you, Kurt, what do you got?
Yeah, this series actually, I'm glad you brought up the Celtics point. This series just seems like the same series as the Cleveland-Boston series, where the Bulls are just much better than the Bucks, and the Bucks will be good in a few years. Especially, Jason Kidd is apparently a pretty solid coach, unlike Derek Fisher appears to be so far. But yeah, it's just the Bulls are just better, and quite frankly, like that series, if it goes past this next game, it's only going to 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, Derrick Rose has been killing it. I mean, Gasol and Noah are just gobbling up rebounds. I don't know. That's gonna be an interesting series when we get to play them. I felt a lot more confident about it a couple weeks ago than I do now, just based on the way that they're playing, and mainly Derrick Rose, because without him, there's not really like the one guy that you're just like, oh shit, I can't guard him. I mean, Jimmy Butler's a good player, but LeBron can check him if he needs to. I'm kind of wondering, I don't know if we're going to have Shumpert guard Derrick Rose a lot, or how that's going to work.
Delhi.
But, yeah. Oh, Delhi? Yeah, I know. Delhi's solid games. I know Johnny loves watching him play.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I really like the Bucks. They're fun to watch. And it's just unfortunate that they're matched up against a team that's much better than they are. So, see what they can do next year.
Yeah. I still lament the fact that it could have been Toronto at the 3 and Chicago at the 4, because Toronto and Milwaukee, if that was a series, we'd crush whoever we'd play in the second round.
Yeah.
And then Chicago would have taken out Atlanta, or vice versa. So we'd only have to face like one pretty good team. But yeah, Chicago is terrifying because, like you said, they have some players that can guard LeBron, like Jimmy Butler, and then Derrick Rose is looking real good. Plus the fact that they kind of hate us and we kind of hate them.
Yeah.
It throws a lot of these things out the window, like advantages we might have, like. These teams play harder against us, and Chicago especially seems to always play hard, win or lose, against us. So that's going to be a tough series. As far as Milwaukee, they look pretty good. They were up 18 in Game 3 against Chicago, and they blew it. But then again, they were down 10 with like a minute or 2 to go, or 3 or 4 minutes to go, and they came back. And let's not forget that they're without Jabari Parker. So they're going to be a perennial playoff team in the next decade. So That's all I got. We can move on to the next series, and this one's a really weird one. It's the 4-5 in the East, Toronto versus Washington, and right now Washington's up 3-0 on the Drakes. So, um, Kurt, how do you see this going down? Is Washington about to sweep Toronto?
Yeah, this is of all the series. I just assumed that this had to go 7, based on how bad both teams entered the playoffs. But then I guess Paul Pierce decided that he just wanted to put the team on his back and keep shouting, "This is why they brought me here." Because he hasn't necessarily played great throughout the course of the game, but when it comes down to crunch time, he's just big, and which I don't know. I didn't think either team was particularly very good, but I really thought the Raptors were just better than this, and the fact that I can't believe they haven't won a game yet. And I mean, I guess the game they have is tomorrow, and it's in Washington, so I don't know. I don't know if the Raptors are gonna fight it out and try to claw back into the series, or kind of gave up already. But I think the thing that stood out most to me is Otto Porter's been kind of killing it. He's been playing. We played very well in the last 2 games. He was plus 17 in the second and third game, and scored 15 and 11 points. Had 9 and 8 rebounds. So that's pretty good production, especially considering he's Paul Pierce's backup, and as we know, he's a little older. So if Porter can fill in minutes for Pierce for most of the, a decent chunk of the game, and then Pierce comes in to close, and he's not worn out from playing all game. That's a pretty solid weapon to have. So I just feel like the Raptors have to get one game, even though that would be in Washington, and then they go back to Toronto. But I think I'm just gonna say it's over, because I don't think Toronto has the. I don't think they have the. I don't know, like mental fortitude to try to come back and win some games in the series. I think they kind of just gave up at this point. So I guess I just have to say it's going to be over tomorrow.
Yeah, this has definitely been a surprising result, I would say, with this series. Like you said, I thought it would go 6 or 7 for sure. But just a few quick points on each team. The playoffs are an interesting time because sometimes for whatever reason, the coaches just decide to, mess with some lineups and play some lineups that they really hadn't before. So if you look at the Zards and the lineup that they've used that has worked for them that they really didn't use in the regular season is playing Pierce at the 4. And what they've been able to do with that is just go to small ball and basically have 4 shooters and a big in there. And that has just caused a lot of problems for Toronto. And yeah, Toronto's offense, like we said in the podcast last week, I think they came in like the 3rd most efficient in the NBA. But their backcourt has just really not showed up at all this series. Lowry, it just seems like he might be like hurt or something. Like he was just terrible in the first 2 games. And then DeRozan, he comes out in game 3 and he drops 20 in the first quarter, but then he just goes ice cold the rest of the game. He went 3 for 18 the rest of the game. So, I mean, if those 2 guys don't play well, they're pretty much screwed. So, overall, it's been surprising of what the Zards have been able to do, considering, both of these teams were, like you said, stinking it up before entering the playoffs. But, if the Zards play well and if Beal and Wall are on, then they could be pretty dangerous, and they could potentially take out Atlanta if Atlanta advances. So, Yeah, just overall, surprising result with the Zards being up 3-0, and I think they do close it out uh, tomorrow at home. If not, I think it goes just 5. I don't think there's chances of it going 6 or 7. Like, no team has obviously gone back from 3-0, and I just don't think Toronto has it in them to steal a game or even two. So, Rahul, you got any other thoughts on this Torres Zards matchup?
Um, I don't know. It's like weird because like the way I look at like Toronto and Washington are like they're teams that should advance from the first round, but after that they're just not a threat. I don't see them as a serious threat to do anything to actually win a championship. So they're like in that purgatory where you're like too good to have like a good draft pick, but you're not good enough to like win a championship. So like it's gonna be an important time for them. Like I think Washington's still a player away, someone like Kevin Durant maybe, that could like
Woo.
lead them to a championship. And I don't know, man, it just must like suck to be a Toronto fan because like they seem to bring it like so hard at all of their home games, and then they lay some big steamers every time. So I don't know. I guess they still got Drake, but that's kind of sucky. So I don't know. Like, yeah, I think Washington's gonna obviously win the series the way it's looking, but again, I just don't think they're gonna beat the next team. And if they do, then they're not gonna beat the team after that. So um, that's how I see it.
A little pessimistic there, big guy.
Oh, I'm just saying. Like, do you think they're gonna win a championship with the teams they have?
Well, definitely not the Tours.
Yeah.
Um,
Plus the Raptors, they
this,
lost to Brooklyn last year, so like
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
that
It's
was
just gotta be.
awesome.
Yeah.
That Paul Pierce on that too. He had like a series-saving block at the end, I think.
Oh, that's right. Paul Pierce is just he's
Yeah,
just
him and the
wrecking Toronto.
Tours. Which is interesting, but no, yeah, I mean, yeah, they don't have a chance. But
Yeah.
Washington has a far greater chance than the Raptors, I think, just because of their back, pretty much, and their bigs have the potential to play very well.
Yeah.
They just usually don't. For and in a playoff series, you only need to play well 4 games, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't know. They're very inconsistent, so it's hard to rely on them.
Yeah.
We'll move on to starting the Western. Oh, actually, I guess. Do we want to do any quick predictions here? So we're assuming Cleveland's going to win the series. Atlanta, or are we assuming Atlanta's going to win? I'd assume so. Chicago
Yeah.
and then Washington. Is it everything all slated for a Cleveland Atlanta Eastern Conference Finals, or do you guys think that there is a chance that that doesn't hold true? And if not, which team do you think is most likely to mess it up? And I'll start with Johnny.
Yeah, so I guess if you look at the next round of playoff matchups, Cleveland, Chicago, I think Chicago will give us trouble for sure. I see that going probably 6 games. Cleveland winning that one, and then Washington, Atlanta. Um, yeah, it's kind of a similar matchup there. I mean, the way Atlanta's been playing, it's not really They're not really convincing me to take them in like 4 or 5 games. I see it going maybe 6 or 7. So I think the Zards have some potential here. They're kind of playing pretty well right now.
Yeah.
So, and with the Hawks kind of struggling a bit, I think the Zards could make some noise and maybe take it to Atlanta. So I see the Zards as the team to maybe mess up that Cleveland Atlanta matchup that everyone else was kind of predicting before the playoffs. Rahul, what team do you see maybe?
Um, I would say Atlanta is more likely to lose their next round matchup. Like, if I was a betting man, I would really look into like what the value would be on betting on Washington because
Mhm.
Atlanta's not looked great, and like yeah, Chicago will give us a lot of problems, I think. But if something goes bad in the Atlanta series, who's the guy in Atlanta that's going to stop the bleeding?
Piro Antic.
Right, but other than that, there's not much. Right, but same thing if you go to the Cleveland series and Chicago's giving us a lot of trouble, you know that LeBron's going to come out with a 40-point game. And at least you can bank on that. You can't really say that for someone on Atlanta. Um, so that's why even though our opponent's better, I would still be more worried about Atlanta. But as a Cavs fan, I'm still pretty nervous about this next round. But we'll see.
So I'm just curious because I thought it was interesting what you said about you don't think anyone in Atlanta is going to come out and drop 40. So if you're looking at the Spurs, who do you think is their guy that would come out and just go
Okay,
bonkers,
but
or is it different?
the Spurs are different. Like, why should the Spurs even be in the playoffs right now? Their three best players are they're old, they're aging, but they just keep getting better. They keep doing the same thing. Like,
Yeah,
and then their coach is like just so good. I know Atlanta's coach is the coach of the year, but we know that's a seasonal award, and that overall Greg Popovich is the best coach in basketball. So I think the Spurs have more of an established system and also a pedigree of winning, where they're not going to let like one bad game or like one bad quarter totally blow their season. Atlanta,
yeah,
I'm not so sure.
yeah. The guys. I mean, they're just Atlanta's supposed to be based off of the Spurs, but I guess I mean they haven't had enough time.
They're like the unproven version, basically.
Yeah. And also that coach comment, I think Mike Brown might be a little offended to hear that, but
Uh, Mike Brown. What do you think Mike Brown's doing right now?
I think he's a shoe salesman for Payless
Oh,
stores. That's just my guess.
dang.
Do you have
Well,
any, do you have any
do,
guesses?
any guesses? No, no guesses. Kurt, so what's your answer to your own question? Atlanta or
Oh,
Cleveland? Who's more likely to blow it?
I don't answer those questions. I just ask them.
You just ask them.
But no, yeah, I guess I definitely could see Chicago beating us. But I think it's just based on the fact that Atlanta's not destroying Brooklyn, and I know I don't give Brooklyn a lot of credit just because, well, quite frankly, on paper they're terrible. But the fact that they lost the game and they only won the first two by single digits and they didn't look real good, and the Zards look good, I think that Atlanta would be the team to mess it up. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think the Cleveland Chicago is going to be, it'll be a really fun series to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of like hack a Tristan or something going on.
Wait, can we
Which,
talk about that for a second?
yeah,
Why is there a hack of Tristan? He shoots 65%. There's got to be a lot of guys in the league that shoot 65%, right?
Yeah.
yeah. I don't.
65% is way too high for a hack of somebody.
Maybe they just don't think that he can handle it mentally, or they're trying to get in his head. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
guess so.
I don't know.
And I swear they did a hack of Tristan like game 2 or something like that, and I think it was Mark Jackson, and he's like, well, it worked because he only made 3 out of 4, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Oh, but yeah, there's that, and then not to get us on too much of a tangent or to interrupt, but did you guys see how the NBA is going to start considering ways to remedy this whole hack-a-Shaq thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How?
What I don't know how, but if say they found a way where they could do it, would you guys like that or no? J Rod, would you be for that or no?
I think it depends on what it would consist of or what that would be of. But yeah, it is stupid just to like interrupt the play and just like call a foul and then they just shoot free throws. I think that's really dumb.
I
Kurt?
think I think if it was going to be instituted that I don't know. I mean, it's in like guys should be able to make their free throws. They're
Yeah.
called free for a reason. You stand there, you could take the 100 like these guys don't have other jobs. All they do is play basketball. So I don't see why they couldn't spend if you're DeAndre Jordan and you shoot I don't know, what was it, 40%, 46%, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something terrible. I don't understand how you can't practice for like 2 hours a day of just free throws and not get better.
Yeah.
That I don't really understand. I don't know if it's that his shot is so ugly that it can't be fixed, or if he's not. I mean, I'm sure he's practicing. He's gotten so much better in other aspects of his game that I feel like he has to be.
Yeah.
But that being said, like I don't know, it's hard to penalize a team for. I mean, it's a good strategy. Like if you're gonna, DeAndre Jordan's a great player, and a way to get him off the floor is to foul him, so he has to take free throws. And
Yeah.
Doc has given him has faith in him that he can if you're gonna miss both your free throws or only make one or whatever, at least just come back and play really good defense. So that
Right.
there's a counter for that, I guess. But
Right.
I think that I don't know. I personally hate it, and I guess I'm kind of on like the Jeff Van Gundy train because that's like I feel like any game because of course only on TV the teams you see are like the Clippers and
Yeah.
the Lakers, but mainly the Clippers. So every game there's like anytime DeAndre Jordan gets fouled, this whole argument comes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe you could just leave it for the regular season because like nobody really cares, and if you really want to try to win a game, you could do it. But like nobody wants to watch a whole playoff series where the Spurs, bring on Aaron Baines and like I don't know, Jeff Ayers to just foul DeAndre Jordan a shitload of times to I don't know. I hate
Dude.
it. It's not fun to watch.
I know this is crazy, but if I could watch a game of DeAndre Jordan versus like Dwight Howard shoot free throws like for the fourth quarter, I would love that.
It
I
would be
think
fun.
yeah, I think I'm the like I swear I love it. I just love when they keep following each other and miss these free throws. It makes me so happy. But
Hey, I mean that series could potentially happen. So I guess the
yeah,
Clippers got some work to do, but
yeah, we'll see.
I guess on that note, we can dive into the Western Conference unless you guys have anything else to add.
I don't think so.
All right. So I guess we'll start with the 1-8, which is the Warriors versus the Pellies. Golden State's up 3-0 right now, which quite frankly should be 2-1, except for pretty much an epic collapse would be a good way of describing it. Johnny, just want to start off with you, I guess. What are some of your thoughts on this series so far? What stands out to you? Do the Pellies have any chance of winning Game 4?
Yeah, so you guys probably can talk to this series a little more than I did, considering you guys watched the entirety of the Game 3. But yeah, it's just ridiculous that Golden State this year, they've actually came back from 20-point deficits 3 different times, and this one was in particularly most impressive because they were down 20 in the fourth, going into the fourth. And they just really dominated, it seemed, in the fourth quarter on second chance points. They were just able to get rebounds, and I think they outscored them like 16-2 on second chance points. And Draymond kind of roughed up the brow. He obviously ended up fouling out, but he got away with a lot of different things, and he's just a really smart player defensively. And I think that the work that he did on the brow kind of makes him tired on the other end. And then it just seems like the Pellies had a pretty good strategy for kind of slowing down the Warriors in a sense, but I think they just still lack anyone to kind of check Steph Curry. I just don't think they have anyone to defend him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just to go through that for the Pellies, that Game 3 loss, I just don't know how you can get up and for that game for Game 4 at this point with just such a deflating loss.
Yeah.
You thought you had it in the bag in the fourth quarter, and Curry hits that three in the corner, which I guess
Yeah.
later they said, if he would have missed that, they would have called a foul, but it definitely was a foul on Davis, so it could have been a 4-point play to eventually win the game, but. Yeah, you can't be up 20 and then lose, especially just with one quarter to play. But yeah, if you're gonna lose to someone, it's probably gonna be Golden State in that sense, just the way they can score so quickly. So those are just a few thoughts, I guess, on particularly Game 3, which obviously was the most exciting out of the ones. The Pellies have given a pretty good fight here, it seems. So, Kurt, what do you have to add?
It's been a pleasure watching Anthony Davis play. The Pellies don't really get a whole lot of love, so maybe they had like one or two national televised games that I caught. I don't even know I don't know how many times they've been on, but he's just been he's obviously very good. But he's just been, I don't know. You can tell that he's going to be like the next transcendental player, like your LeBron or like Kevin Durant, where he just can't really be guarded. And it's even more special because he can play some pretty incredible defense. So I really just enjoyed that. Otherwise, the Pellies, yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand the way their team was put together. And it kind of shows because they're dysfunctional, I think is a good word to use. But, I don't know, Omer Asik is just pretty much, he's not doing anything really at all on the court. And I'm not really sure why I guess he's out there to kind of guard against Bogut. But he's just really done absolutely nothing. And the Pellies they're just not very good aside from Davis. Eric Gordon is either on fire or misses everything. Tyreek Evans doesn't really know how to pass, and then the rest of the team is pretty much just 3-point shooters because Drew Holiday hasn't really been healthy, so he hasn't played a whole lot. So the fact that they've been making the series kind of interesting, I gotta give I guess I don't know if it's Monty Williams, but got to give him credit for that because it has been fun to watch, and Ryan Anderson's been playing pretty well too. So that's at least in the last game he did. But yeah, it's just the Golden State's so far superior that I don't know how there's no reason they should have won the Game 3, but even if they did, all that would have meant is that the Warriors would come out in Game 4 and just absolutely embarrass them on the Pellies home court. So, I don't know. That series is, it's definitely over. It's too deflating of a loss, like you said. And, I guess Golden State's just waiting to see who they play in the next round at this point, pretty much.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you said. I don't know, Kurt, if you got this feeling watching the fourth quarter of Game 3, but even though they were up 15 or 18, I just felt like something was going to happen. It just was not secure. And they kept showing Drew Brees on the side, and the poor guy just looked so sad after they lost. But there's that, and yeah, their roster is kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit of a mess. They have a lot of guys signed to these big contracts, and you mentioned Omer Asik, and he's not even the best player next to Davis. Ryan Anderson is a much better complement. So you have that huge contract just sitting on your bench in crunch time, and that's tough. So they're one of those teams that really needs to look into how to build a better roster for Anthony Davis, because if they don't improve upon their roster, there's no reason that Anthony Davis is gone. Yeah. So they need to work on that, I guess. One of my favorite parts of the game was watching. They kept flashing to Del Curry, and then he was standing next to Steph's younger brother, Seth. And dude, Seth just let himself go. He looked rough. So, that was fun. But yeah, this series is pretty much over. Maybe like Anthony Davis can like score 50 tonight and get them a win, but after that, like in Golden State, there's no chance. There's just no chance. So that's how I see it.
I'm kind of in that the Pellies get up by like 15 early, and then Golden State just starts roaring back. Because then the Pellies will just absolutely fold, and it'll be a blowout. Because it's just that's a really tough loss to take. But it is. I mean, yeah, they're pretty young, and they're getting good experience, and hopefully they learn a lot from that game. Because I'd like to see them put some weapons around Davis before. It's another like Dwight Howard episode where he just as soon as he can pretty much just bails because they aren't that good. And I don't know. I just it's over. But I like the Pellies, so hopefully they can figure something out for the future.
Yeah.
So now we can go into a team that I know that Rahul just absolutely loves watching, and that is the Houston Rockets versus the Dallas Mavs, which the Rockets are up 3-0. There may or may not have been a bet wagered on Game 3 that went in my favor, so that's always exciting. But yeah, Rahul, we'll start with you since I know you love the Rockets. What can you take from this series so far? Who's been the best? Is James Harden, is he the best player in the series by far? Or Dwight Howard's been playing pretty well, so just I don't know, just give me some thoughts, I guess, on the series.
The one thing, or I guess the two things that I can say from the series are that Dallas really does try really hard. Their effort is there, and I think you can see that. But the second thing is Houston is just they're just better. I hate to say it, but Houston's just better than Dallas, and Dallas, at the end of the day, over the course of 7 games, can't compete. And that's tough because they had an unfortunate situation with Rondo, and then Chandler Parsons got hurt, and Richard Jefferson just isn't really cutting it. So
or Jay.
Aminu's been good. He's been a bright spot for them.
Yeah.
But I think that Parsons injury really hurts. Again, Dirk is solid. He's like one of those Tim Duncan-like players that just doesn't fizzle, or he's aged very nicely. But I think you asked if James Harden was the best player in the series or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, without a doubt, he is. I forget what game it was, Game 2 or something like that, where he just scored the first 10 points, or maybe it was even Game 3, and then he had 42 last game.
Yeah, last game.
The dude's good. I don't like his beard, and he eats Taco Bell breakfast, but he's good. So, J-Rod, what do you think of this series?
Yeah, just quickly on Dirk. Yes, he did have a great Game 3, but I would slightly disagree on the comparison to Duncan. I think Dirk, he moves like an old man now, and he can't play any defense. So, I mean, his offensive game has been solid here and there.
But in my defense, Dirk never could play defense. Duncan could always play defense.
True, but yeah, he's just awful on the defensive end. He gives them no chance. No.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're starting to see is that it used to be at a point where you could put in Tyson Chandler and have Dirk in there, and Chandler could cover for
be able to hide him, but
I don't know if
Dirk.
it's just Dirk, but I don't know. Dirk's not the issue for that team though.
Right, yeah, and just to that point, the least valuable player in these playoff series is Rajon Rondo.
Yeah,
and looking at the move when they made it, it definitely looked as if, the Mavs and Cubes are taking a run at the title here. They're acquiring a point guard that they desperately need, especially in the West, and it really looked like a good move for them. but it just has not turned out that way.
Yeah.
And they traded away, players like Jay Crowder and Brandon Wright that they're desperately missing right now, it seems.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're just too thin on the wing with Parsons out, especially to. James Harden doesn't have to work on the defensive end at all with
Yeah.
guys, And Dwight Howard, if Dwight Howard's playing well, he can wear down Chandler. And Josh Smith, he's actually a pretty good passer, actually.
Yeah.
And players like Terrence Jones have kind of stepped up. In that first quarter, in Game 3, he just destroyed. He had like 10 points pretty quickly. And in Game 3, there was just absolutely no defense, and that and things favors Houston and their ability just to shoot the three. And Harden wasn't great in the first 2 games, but in Game 3 he had like 42. So the season is over for Dallas, and the future it's just really unsure right now. Because Rondo's gone, Dirk's on the decline. They have Parsons and cap space, and that's about it. So,
you know who to look great for them right now, guarding James Harden? Jay Crowder, or like helping out with Dwight Howard, Brandon Wright.
Jay Crowder is like the only chance the Celts have in the post against LeBron, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's turned out to be a lot better than I thought he was. I guess just the way that he's featured a lot more in Boston than Dallas, and I don't think they use him that much necessarily. But I guess just some of my thoughts. Basically you guys covered it, that the Rockets are just much better, especially with the injuries. And when you're sporting out Raymond Felton and Richard Jefferson in your starting lineup, who combined for a nice 3 points on 1 for 7. That's just those 2 guys on your team. That's just not really going to help you a whole lot. They didn't play a whole lot, but just the fact that they were out there to start is interesting. I think one of the bright spots for Dallas, at least in the last 2 games, like J.J. Barea has been playing really well. He was plus 22 in Game 3, and in Game 2 he was plus 12, and he's not getting a whole lot of minutes, but the guy is a little dude, but he makes a pretty big difference when he's out there. So that's pretty much. And Dirk's been playing well too, but that seems to be pretty much the one bright spot for Dallas. Obviously not really a guy you can build a franchise around, but him and Amare, they've both been playing well. So I don't know if I feel like they're not a good team, but I feel like they're good enough to maybe win Game 4, but I don't know. I'll have to sleep on it and see how I feel. Because in reality, I feel like if Houston wants to win Game 4, they can, but I don't know if maybe they just are content just letting Dallas have a game. I don't know.
A question for you. Now that you live like in Houston, do you find yourself pulling for like Houston at all, or do you not like them, or where do you stand on Houston?
The Rockets?
Yeah.
I'm still not really a big fan, but I guess if they make it to like the finals or something like that, or I don't know. I've kind of looked into going to. It's expensive to go to a game. Just I guess even like the Cavs are expensive just because when teams are good, people want to say that they're there. I've always been a huge Strohs fan, and by always I mean like for the past 2 years. So but no, I don't really like Dwight Howard. I've been a big James Harden fan since he got to Oklahoma City, but no, I don't really like Dwight Howard. So that kind of neutralizes. But they're fun to watch. They shot 52% last game and 54% from 3, and I don't know. I feel like they're very adaptable in that they can match whatever style the other team wants to play. And when Dallas decided they didn't want to play any defense, Houston was pretty pleased about that and had no problem just jacking up shots and and going for a shootout because Dallas just can't keep up. But yeah, I mean Houston, they're looking really good, and that's like, I don't know. I hope they, I mean, either against the Clippers or the Spurs, that's gonna be a really fun series too. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I'm sure Houston would love to play the Spurs because you think about the travel time, like Houston playing games at home and then going to either Dallas and then San Antonio. That's like that's like a 3-hour drive,
Yeah.
4-hour drive tops. So that probably is pretty nice. Then go home between games.
Yeah. They got a pretty solid Texas triangle of teams out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the next series then. Um, let's talk Clippers, San Antonio. I think you were just talking about them, so why not? Right now, San Antonio is up 2-1. What was the seeding on the series?
What was the what?
The seeding?
3.
Oh,
Clippers
3-6.
3-6.
6, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Clips were 3, San Antonio's 6, but obviously that doesn't mean too much in the West because it's like a
Yeah,
game
because it could have been
separating.
2.
Yeah. So, got another game coming up in San Antonio tomorrow, and they already have a 2-1 lead. Do you guys think that San Antonio is going to pull this off? J-Rod?
Yeah, I do. And just based on what happened yesterday with Game 3, they just absolutely destroyed the Clippers. And to hold one of the best offenses to 73 points is incredible.
Yeah.
And Game 3 was all about Kawhi Leonard, and he just put together a career performance. You recently, he won the Defensive Player of the Year award, but he's also able to take a game offensively. So Game 3 was a real statement game for me. I was surprised Game 1 that the Clippers stole that one. I think it was one of the best games, both from Blake Griffin and CP3. They just played very well, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think throughout this series, if it goes, 6 or 7, that the lack of depth with the Clips is just going to catch up to them. I think if Blake and CP3 continue to play well, there's only just so much they can do. So I mean, they're playing like 7 guys at this time, and maybe just Jamal Crawford is like the only like serviceable reserve they have. It's like obviously Austin Rivers has to get his minutes because Doc's boy. Um, But yeah, just trotting out Turkoglu and Glenn Davis like you said, just I don't think gonna cut it against what the Spurs
Yeah.
have on their bench. So looking forward into this series, Game 4, I expect San Antonio to win. So they go up 3-1, and maybe the Clips steal one, but I think it ends in 4-1 defeat for the Clips and another early departure for their team. So, yeah, just the Spurs just looked really good in this Game 3, and I think they'll come out in Game 4 looking for the same kind of result. So, Kurt, what do you have on this series?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much hit the on the head with the depth, in that pretty much the only person that the Clippers can put in is Jamal Crawford, and anyone else is just such a major downgrade that whoever that player is just gets absolutely exploited, and that either San Antonio they leave them open because they're not worried about them doing anything, or on defense they just go at that person because, I mean, yeah. Hito Turkoglu, Austin Rivers, Dante Jones, Glenn Davis, I don't know. Those guys realistically just shouldn't be in any sort of playoff rotation at all. I know they're not playing a whole lot, but it just puts so much pressure on the starters that it just makes things just so much more difficult, because they know that when they come out of the game, which granted they haven't been coming out a whole lot, that things are just going to go to shit, and then they have to battle back just to try to tie things up when they come in, and then they go out again, and then have to do, just it's the same cycle, and it just puts so much pressure on your top guys to perform well that it's really not sustainable. And they're the Spurs that are just trotting out, all kinds of guys whenever they want, and like in game 3, I guess not many people had to play a whole lot since it was over early, but I don't know. The Spurs are they're just way too deep, and there's just a lot of matchup problems, I think, too, and mainly in again, it was the same thing with the Heat last year. Nobody can really guard Boris Diaw because he's just a weird type body player. He's just a big dude, but he can drive past people. He can shoot the three. He's a very good and willing passer, and it's really hard to have somebody guard him, especially when he's out there with Duncan, because Duncan obviously requires enough attention on his own. And yeah, they're just looking kind of like a 4-headed, 5-headed monster right now, and the Clippers they're just not going to be able to deal with it. I think that it'll go 6, and just mainly because I think that, like Johnny said, I think the Spurs will win game 4, go up 3-1. I think that Los Angeles, they'll win their next game in LA, and then it'll go back to San Antonio, and then it'll be over, because if it goes to 7, then things could get really interesting, considering the game would be in Los Angeles. So the Spurs know they have to take care of business early. And, not that they have a problem playing on the road, but the Clippers play a lot better at home versus on the road. So, yeah, I don't know. I love watching the Spurs. It's a lot of fun. So I make sure I try to watch. And, of course, that's the series that the games are on at start at 10 o'clock, so can't really catch all of it, but go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go. I think next game, luckily, is tomorrow, right after the Cavs game, so I'm definitely gonna try to catch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because if the 5 of us tried it out against the 5 top bench players on the Clippers, at the YMCA, that would probably be a pretty close game, Glenn Davis would probably foul out right away, but that would be a good game. And it's funny because if you think about the Spurs bench, you might recognize Ginobili and not too many other names, but at the same time, guys like Patty Mills and Matt Bonner will destroy you, and it's hilarious because every night it's another just another guy on their team just going to town. So I don't know, man. I don't like the Clippers. I can't wait for them to lose because I think they're gonna lose.
Yeah.
And this is another year for Chris Paul where, again, I'm not his biggest fan, but I don't deny that he's a really, really good player. He's a great player, but it's starting to get to that time where he's got to start doing something. Otherwise, people are going to start talking about not having a championship. It's if you look around at his roster, the bench, like we said, sucks, but he's got Blake Griffin. He's got maybe the best center in the league with DeAndre Jordan. So,
and one of the best coaches.
Right, and Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But I think San Antonio is just the worst team to play in the playoffs, and the Clippers got a little bit unlucky too. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
You forgot to mention that the Clippers have the best son of a coach on their team too.
That's true. Wait, let's think. Is there another son of a coach out there that's better than Austin Rivers?
If Luke Walton and Bill were on a combo together.
Okay.
But
the Dunleavys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. All
I
right.
I think it's interesting because I feel like bringing in Austin, like as we've talked about before, I feel like it's created a real rift in the locker room because everyone realizes that he's not very good, but he
Yeah.
keeps playing anyway.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of moments in the game, granted they were getting blown out, so that doesn't necessarily help anyone's emotional intensity. But
Right.
where it seemed like people were just like, I don't know, like they kind of seemed like they hated him. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because he made a dumb play, which I'm sure he did, or because they were losing. But that's just I don't know. They have to look back in that and say that that was just even if the only way that that would work out well is if it was like Kevin Durant
Yeah.
dad playing or dad coaching because then like everyone just knows.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just that's just been a whole mess, and it's kind of been like a backstory on the season because everybody loves Doc, and they don't really want to bring that up to him, I'm sure. But I feel like in the locker room that this has to be a major issue.
Yeah. Doc's a good coach, but not the best GM.
No.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's hilarious because this whole story is probably just getting started because I think after this season, Austin Rivers' contract is up, and they got to figure out whether to extend him or not. And it's going to be
Oh my
super awkward no
God.
matter what they do.
yeah,
It's a lose-lose.
Yeah.
yeah. It really
True.
is.
I could
I mean,
totally see Doc just giving DeAndre's money to his kid.
Max contract.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, realistically though, how much? I mean, what kind of value does that guy have on your team? Where he realistically, at best, is like a third. No, he's like a fourth guard at
Yeah.
best. So that's a guy who brings in what, like 2 to 3 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure like they'll offer him something just because like I don't know. Would anyone else want to pick him up? I don't know. Obviously, I don't really
Just
talk to GM or anything. So
probably just like a bad team that can wait for him to, because he's still young. So like a bad team that can wait for him to see that like maybe he might get better.
Yeah. Like the
But
kid.
like,
yeah,
yeah, if you're the
yeah.
Clippers, you can't wait.
No, yeah. I would be interested to see if maybe if he got thrown on. I have to think of a team.
What about
But yeah.
Cleveland? No, I'm serious, because like we got Dellavedova right now.
Uh-huh.
What about Cleveland?
No, I was well, that would be interesting, but I was more thinking about a team like I don't know. I don't want to say
Like,
Philadelphia, but a team like that where like the expectations are really low
yeah,
and he can play like 35 minutes a game and try to figure out if what his niche is going to be in the league because in high school obviously he came out as like I think he might have been the #1 recruit. I'm not sure what
Yeah,
he
yeah,
it was.
could do. So obviously like you can tell just from watching, you can tell he's freakishly athletic,
yeah.
and I mean he can get to any spot he wants and get any shot he wants. He usually misses, but he has a lot of potential. I don't know like that playing as like a fourth guy who doesn't really get any minutes. That's not like a way that he's going to develop. So I don't
if
know. I don't
if
know if he needs to go to D-League or something, but
yeah, if Helen Keller and Russell Westbrook had a baby, it would be Austin Rivers. Is that's mean? I'm sorry,
wow.
that's mean.
Interesting.
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know how you thought of that, but I guess if you see any court papers on your front door in the next few days, we'll know why.
Yeah, right.
For degrading Austin like that, but
Doc's gonna come after me.
yeah.
Glenn
Well,
Rivers.
he knows Semih Pro we have a lot of money in this company, so
Yeah,
maybe he just get it for Austin and then let Austin retire.
that's yeah.
Retire to like Punta Cana or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys want to move on to the last of the playoff series, the 4-5 matchup with Portland and Memphis. Memphis has taken a commanding 2-0 lead. Rahul, if you
Yeah.
wanted to start us off on just your quick thoughts on this series and what has transpired thus far.
Yeah. I think I might have written about this. I picked Memphis in seven because I looked at this as a series where the home court team was going to win their game. And I
Hmm.
guess so far so good. Um, Obviously, when you think about Memphis, the first thing that comes to mind is that they might have the best front court in the league with Gasol and Randolph. And with the way the playoffs are played, it's that slow and like half court bruising style. There is no team that's better suited for that style than Memphis, right? But
Yeah.
then if you look at Portland, um, obviously they got Damian Lillard. They got guys like Batum and Aflalo who are solid swing players. And then if you look at their bigs, there's Aldridge who obviously is the man, and more on their centers, Kaman and Lopez. They're obviously not great, but they're big bodies, and they're the kind of bodies you need to throw up against Gasol and Randolph. So I'd say they're pretty well suited for this matchup against Memphis. But I would still say Memphis in seven um, at the end of the day, if you ask me today. I think Portland's going to win tonight, though. They play later tonight, I believe. So um, Memphis in seven. That's my prediction. Sorry, I didn't really cover much of what happened in the last two games, but I'll leave that to one of you guys.
It's all good.
Kurt.
Well, I guess I'll leave that part to Johnny then.
Well, I don't have too
No,
much either, so.
yeah, it was pretty much just taking care of business at home. Grizzlies won the first game by 14 and the second game by 15. In the first game, they won by 14 after Portland outscored Memphis by 10 in the fourth quarter, so that was kind of over early. This series, I don't know. I mean, this Portland team just reminds me, except I think they're even a poor man's version of the Clippers, being that DeAndre Jordan is just much better than Robin Lopez. And, you could definitely say that Nicholas Batum's a lot better than Matt Barnes. But when you just look at Portland's bench, especially since Aflalo's injured, I don't even know. I think he might be playing tonight, and Kaman's injured. And obviously Wesley Matthews is injured. They really don't have a whole lot coming off the bench either. And when Lillard hasn't really played well against Memphis. I think Memphis has won, was it like 6 of the last 7 or 7 of the last 8 against Portland. They just really don't, when Aldridge and Lillard aren't going nuts, there really isn't anyone else to provide offense for that team. I'm not trying to insult Joel Freeland or Steve Blake or Steve McCollum or Myers Leonard, but I mean those are the that they have to, and yeah, they're not bad bench players, but they're certainly not good bench players either. So they pretty much run 5 deep, and then one of their guys that's playing a lot is Alan Crabb, who I'm not really sure I've heard of him before, but I think he was a second round pick from Cal or something, maybe.
Yeah, he was a former Cavalier.
So was Alonzo G.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't. I don't think he's even played at all yet. But yeah, I guess the point that Portland really only has 2 offensive weapons. Granted, Batum can play pretty well. Lopez doesn't really need to be guarded. He's just gonna maybe get some offensive rebounds and dunks off pick and roll. But they're just, and Memphis's defense is too good, and I'm going to disagree with Rahul here, and I think that they'll get one of these next 2, but I think Memphis wins in 5. Just based on the whole injury thing, I think that Lillard and Aldridge can go off for one game and carry them, and that'll be enough. But it's just been taking care of business, I guess, for the Grizzlies is what it seems like, and everyone's contributing well. I mean, they got really solid depth between Jeff Green, Kufis, Banner Udrik's been playing well, and
Ben
even
Howe.
Vince Carter can give you decent minutes here and there. So yeah, I think Memphis in 5, and another former Cavalier, John Lure, thrown in there, who we got a first round pick for, who like doesn't play for the Grizzlies at all. So I'm not really sure how they feel about that trade at this point, but yeah. So yeah, I'll go Memphis in 5, and I think Portland will win tonight too, but I think Memphis gets game 4 and then goes back to Memphis and closes the series out.
Yeah, I side with you, Kurt, on this one. In Memphis in 5, I see maybe Memphis at 6 at the most. You look at Portland, and the big issue has been the play of Damian Lillard these first 2 games. He has shot 27% these first 2 games, 5 for 21 in the opener, and then 5 for 16 in game 2. And I think that is partially due to the fact that they really miss Wesley Matthews and Aaron Aflalo, who I think will return for game 3. But when those 2 players are out, Memphis is able to stick multiple guys on Lillard. Conley's a solid defender, and then they can have guys like Tony Allen guard him. So Lillard has really struggled, and like you said, Kurt, I think Portland's lack of depth with the injuries they've had kind of hurts them as well. So Memphis has really made a statement in these first 2 games, winning each one by close to 15 points. And yeah, I think it would really take a real improvement of play from Lillard, as well as Aldridge kind of stepping up his game and getting the best of the bigs and Gasol and Randolph. But I think that's just a very tough task for Portland, especially now down 2-0. So yeah, I see this one going 5, maybe 6, but I lean more towards 5 and Memphis to advance. And then looking forward, I suppose, to the Grizz, they would match up with Golden State, and I'm not sure how many games that one will go, but that'll be interesting to see what kind of defense and strategy Memphis goes, and in terms of the pace, I guess,
Yeah.
to like slow it down, and how that will happen,
Yeah.
or if they can even do that. So that could be an interesting series going forward, I think, if Memphis is able to take care of business, I guess, in Portland. I guess that does it for all 8 playoff series. We've covered pretty much all of them pretty well. A lot of good stuff there. Do we want to cover Scotty Brooks' firing real quick, or save that for next time, or what do we think?
We can real quick just
Yeah.
jump into it. He's been their coach for 7 years, and I think honestly that's probably too long. Like they should have done this like a while ago.
It's definitely long overdue. I think they should have done it last year or maybe even the year before. I think when you do it now and then you bring in another coach and in 6 months they're expected just to, especially if you bring in like a college guy like Donovan who has no NBA experience, I think it's just a very tough task. And if you were to hire someone like last year, I think the timing would have been a lot better to fire him last year instead of what they did now.
Yeah. But
Kurt,
Yeah,
what do you see with like the future for the Thunder, I guess, and like maybe like what kind of coach they need to lead them in the future, and maybe to have KD stay, and what Russell Westbrook's future holds with like a new coach and stuff.
Yeah. Well, first I'm just gonna say it's definitely like things like this always seem controversial because obviously there was major injury issues this season, and that's pretty much everyone would say that they're gonna make the playoffs if they had KD and Westbrook healthy the whole season.
Or even just Ibaka for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
they were
true.
just absolutely decimated the whole year. So when a guy, and granted, I know Johnny and I aren't his biggest fans, but when a guy has an impressive record, even if maybe some of us feel like it should have been a lot more impressive, it's just hard. It's hard to go, like you guys said, in a season where where they're missing like all their players. It seems interesting, but the future for that team, it's so crazy to think that 2012, they're in the finals against the Heat. They have just the three-headed monster, and then if you include Baca four-headed, and they're just looking so good. Then Harden obviously goes to the Rockets, and they just, I don't know, they seem like they had everything in front of them, and now it seems like they just missed their window. I don't know how you can bring in any coach. I mean, well, not any coach, but there are very few coaches that you could bring in that are going to garner the respect of Durant and Westbrook and, guys like, I mean, they've been playing for a long time now. And if you bring in a guy like Billy Donovan, who has no NBA experience, I feel like that there's not enough time for a guy like that. He's obviously a good coach, but there's not enough time for a guy like that to just grow into the NBA with a team that, quite frankly, feels like they should be title contending. So it's going to be really hard for them to find a coach that fits what they expect to do. And I don't know that there is a good option out there right now. Especially with the way things are going, a lot of people feel like between Westbrook and Durant that one of them is definitely leaving, if not both. So, maybe they'll hire Mike Brown because
Oh, man.
he seems to attract disaster. So maybe they'll hire Mike Brown and then have a tough season, and then everyone. Is it Durant can leave after next season and Westbrook, or is it Westbrook in 17 and Durant in 16, or how does that work exactly?
Durant for sure next season.
Yeah, I think Westbrook is 2017, I want to say.
Okay. So, I mean, it's that obviously I would think it'd be an incredibly attractive job, at least for next year. They still have all this talent. You have to assume that everyone's going to be healthy. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, Scott Brooks obviously wasn't the guy for the good job because, quite frankly, they should have won one title at least between when they put everyone together and all that, because they definitely had the talent. So as I'm kind of talking in circles, I don't see anyone. I can't think of anyone that they should hire that would be like their savior guy that's gonna lead them to the promised land. I think they're so talented that they're going to make the playoffs just based off that, even if the coach has I could coach that team to the playoffs.
They should make Deion Waiters a player coach.
Oh, my God. That's like the one negative spot on that team. That trade didn't really pan out so well, I don't think. But, I mean, getting Enes Kanter is obviously, that's really worked out well for them. But,
yeah,
losing Reggie to get Deion, it seems like that was just a major downgrade, if anything. Because Deion he's really just been, I guess the only way to describe it is just, disappointing in the way he's played since he's brought to the NBA. Granted, when we picked him, I had no idea who he was, and I couldn't believe we picked him.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Mark Jackson's interested in the job. I don't know if that's an option or not, but I feel like that might be a good solution. But I don't know if he's ready to get back into the game.
Yeah.
After, obviously, leaving the Warriors and then Kerr coming out of nowhere and just leading him to the best record. So I don't know. Things are looking pretty interesting there. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. But they really gotta nail out this next coach if they want to have any shot of keeping those guys around. So a lot of pressure on that organization to find the right guy for the job. Or girl, if Doris Burke's looking for a coaching gig.
Doris Burke is sweet. I love Doris Burke.
Yeah, she's actually. Yeah, there are certainly a lot worse announcers that I can think of than Doris.
Yeah.
Not gonna throw any names out there, but um, anyone else have any comments on Scotty Brooks before we call it a day? Or
No, I'm.
Yeah, not too much. It just seems like like next year, looking at the contracts for OKC, like even they don't even have like room for like a draft pick. Like they have like a lot of guys locked up for next year on the books. Like only
mm,
Telfair and Singler are the only guys that are, I think, free agents for next year. So it looks
Singler.
like if they're gonna make a move for someone else, it would have to be with like a trade. Like they don't have too many like open roster spots or you know other things to other pieces to move. It just seems like the younger guys that they have in McGarry, and I don't know what they'll do with Jeremy Lamb. I think they just should just trade him away because they just don't use him the way that they should, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And Perry Jones too hasn't.
Yeah,
They really just didn't give those guys. Well, they kind of gave Jeremy Lamb a shot to develop for like
yeah,
a year. Perry Jones is just not really seen any court time except for when everyone gets injured, and then even then then they brought in Cantor, so
yeah,
I don't know. There's really yeah. I mean I feel like they've drafted well, but then it's another thing to get those guys time to develop when a team that has such high expectations. There's not necessarily like a good time to throw them out there to get battle tested, unless there's a blowout, and at that point it's just scrubs versus scrubs. So
hmm
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see how that plays out.
yeah.
All right. Well, any shout outs before we head out here?
Um, wow, I don't really have anything. Um, which is yeah, actually I'll give a quick shout out to my boy Alexei Ajinka
Oh yeah.
on
Oh,
the
Pelly.
Pellies. He's gonna lead them to a victory tonight, and I'm willing to bet 2 nuggies that
Oh,
he will.
Whoa.
how many is he gonna drop? Like 25, 30?
I'm thinking he's gonna drop somewhere between 3 and 5.
Oh.
So
25, 30. Is that points? Is that points or turnovers?
He's no Kendrick
that
Perkins.
can
Come on.
yeah, actually, honestly, if he plays more than 5 minutes, I don't think he got in. I don't think he's gotten in at all since Davis has been back. But if he does, he is a treat to watch. So
Yeah.
it's my boy.
Yeah, just with that Scotty Brooks firing, it just made me think of the song. Just a shout out to the song Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah, I know, right?
He probably
Song
didn't know
for
that it was
sure.
coming, but it's just a great song.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Well, I guess I don't know when we're gonna be back. Probably next week again.
Yeah.
Do something for the second round because that'll line up pretty nicely, I think. So,
hmm
all right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I guess we'll talk to everybody
Yeah, maybe next.
soon.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
All right.